Welcome back to session 2 of JA Careers in Communication. In today's session, you need your guidebook as well as the materials packet that we'll use for the teamwork project. In today's session, once you do your introduction and a recap of communication, you're going to talk about soft skills versus technical skills to the students. Soft skills are those personal attributes or behaviors that aren't connected to a specific job, and then those technical skills are the skills needed to actually do a specific job. And so it's always good if you can provide an example that the students might relate to. So when I worked in the concessions industry, my boss used to always say, Risa, we can train someone how to make a hot dog, we can't train them how to smile. So the making a hot dog, running a cash register, etc., that's the technical skill. Smiling, being on time, communicating, problem solving, those are all the soft skills. So today we're going to focus on 2, and we're going to start with problem solving. If you've taught the Legacy JA Careers program, you're going to notice that both elements to today's activities are retained from that specific program. They were probably the favorite parts of that old program. So first of all, you're going to introduce what we call the problem solving tool, and you can just write this on the board. The first step is to obviously identify the problem, make sure you know what you're really trying to solve. Secondly, you're going to list solutions to that problem and list pros and cons for each one. Third, you're going to weigh out those pros and cons and make a decision and act on it. I always like to add a 4th step, which is to reflect and evaluate. I always want to challenge the students to think about when you've made a decision, when you've done it, when it's over, to just take a moment and reflect. Did it go as you had hoped? Was there maybe a better way that you could have done it? If you were faced with that same decision in the future, what would you do? If somebody else asked for your advice, how would you respond to them? I always like students to really think about, just because you make a choice right now doesn't necessarily mean that you have to repeat that specific choice for the future. You can always grow and adapt and do things better. The first activity is pick a corner, and what you're going to notice is there are 2 scenarios in the guidebook, and what you're going to do is, first of all, read that scenario, and then you're going to read the bold title of each of the scenarios, and you're going to say, if you would do this, go to that side of the room. As you read the second one, go to that corner. If you're going to do the third thing, go to this corner. You're going to have the students go to a corner, and then you're just going to create dialogue. Why are they there? Why would they do what they would do? And you're going to notice that a lot of times Jay says there's not really a right or wrong answer. There kind of is in this. Like, yeah, there's some like gray, but really there is an ethical element to these scenarios. And I really encourage you as the volunteer to challenge the students' thinking. Right? In real life, many of us do and make the choice that maybe isn't the most ethical, but we really want to challenge ourselves to do the ethical thing. And sometimes there could be legal elements to some of these choices, and they don't always think about it that way. They also don't always think about the perspective of the company and the policy and the liability that the company might have. So there's 2 scenarios, and I hope you have enough time to do both. The first one that's listed is the restaurant situation, and this one's pretty quick and doesn't usually create a lot of dialogue, but the second one, the one with the movie theater, that hits some heartstrings with teenagers. So I really hope that you can get to that one and have a robust conversation. And that's the one that you really, really need to challenge their thinking in, because of course we know what feels right, but also what is the right thing to do from the perspective of the business. Usually there's at least 1 kid, if not 2, that goes to each corner. Once in a while, I've been in a class in which they all heard to one or the other, and the third one isn't represented. So I would encourage you to just have some talking prompts available to showcase that specific one, especially if it's the one that's really the most ethical to do. And you'll notice we provided some talking prompts for that activity as well. I do like to just pause and let the teacher throw in any additional ideas throughout that conversation. Many of our legacy teachers have done this program, this specific session many, many times. And sometimes they come up with a perspective that a student from the past or a volunteer from the past has brought out that can really add to the discussion. So I always just pause and let the teachers fold in something as well. The main portion of this session and the rest of the time you're with the students, we're going to switch over to talking about teamwork and collaboration. And this is a topic where some students love to work in groups and some really prefer independent work. And so the first thing you're going to do is just simply make kind of a T-chart on the board. First of all, just get the students to brainstorm what are all the different ways in which they work in groups in both school, teamwork, of collaboration, and extracurriculars, things that they do in their family units, etc. Then you're going to make a T-chart that shows what do they love about working as a team and what do they not like. I usually actually ask them to stand up. If you guys had the opportunity to choose working as a group or working on your own, how many would pick which one? It's usually pretty 50-50, and that will really help them think about what are the things we love about it and what are some of the frustrations about it. Then you're going to switch and start talking about what are the characteristics of a high-performing team. And you're going to notice that we have what we call the GRIPPY model. And you're not going to see this right away, but you're going to talk about it first. But each of the students, when you get to the challenge, there is their challenge slip in here, and this GRIPPY model is printed on the back of that slip. So just know that that is where the students will see it, but they won't have this yet. So just keep that in mind. You're going to notice in your guidebook, there are the talking prompts about GRIPPY. GRIPPY is just a way that really focuses on goals, roles and responsibilities, processes, and then interpersonal relationship skills. And so you want to talk a little bit about the history of the GRIPPY model and really those 4 elements. And then you're going to jump into the actual challenge of the day. First of all, what you need to do is you need to have a group of students, so 3 or 4 students that are willing to be judges, and then the rest of the students are going to be divided up into small groups to actually do the challenge. So the first thing I do is ask for volunteers who want to be the judges, and they're going to be milling around the room, and they're going to be focused on the soft skill of teamwork and collaboration. And their whole goal is to as the students are working, they're trying to evaluate how are they working? Do they have goals? Do they have roles and responsibilities? Do they have the processes in place, and how are their interpersonal relationship skills working? So they're applying the GRIPPY model to the soft skill of teamwork and collaboration. And this is just a little rubric that they can use to jot notes for themselves. So ultimately, that group of students is going to come up with who won the soft skill of teamwork and collaboration, okay? If you don't have 3 or 4 people who volunteer, I usually look to the teacher to help me select students for that role. From there, I always ask the teacher to help split the students into small groups because they know what students work well together and what students don't. And every other group, you can have up to 5, are going to get one of these baggies, and each baggie contains the same stuff. There is 15 yellow, 15 blue index cards, and 15 paper clips. And then there is a challenge in each one. Now, we've been talking about communication, so you're not going to give them very much information. They're really going to derive the meat of what needs to be done in here. But you can tell the students, as noted in your guidebook, that they have just formed a group of colleagues who work together at an architecture company. They just got called together by their boss, and their task is to apply the GRIPPY model while solving the situation provided. Okay, you also want to emphasize that at the end of the challenge, each group is going to get 30 seconds to pitch or explain their idea to the client, and then that client is going to get to make the decision on which building structure is going to win, okay? So basically what they're going to do is as they read the scenario, they're going to find out that there's a client that is looking at their architecture firm, and they want a skyscraper, and they're really interested in your specific company because of the skyscraper. So we need height, think height, design. So what are they going to do creatively with the colors, etc. And then the durability, like the quality of the final product. Okay. So I always like when the teacher is the client. So always ask your teacher first if they're willing to play that role, or if you personally as the volunteer want to be the client, feel free. What I do is within the challenge, it says that the client is 10 minutes away. So they should be derived striving within their own challenge, that they have about 10 minutes to do this activity. So 3 minutes from that 10-minute mark, so 7 minutes in, I always make an announcement that the client has entered the parking lot, that we've gotten word that we have 3 minutes to go. So that's my 3-minute warning. And then at that 10-minute mark, we call time and we introduce the client. So whether that's the teacher or the volunteer, introduce the client, and then again, give each of the groups 30 seconds to pitch their structure to their teacher or to the client and whoever that is. While they're doing that, your group of evaluators can collaborate in the corner and decide who won the soft skill of teamwork and collaboration. It does not have to be the person or the group that has the tallest or best structure. They are focused on the soft skill, and the client is focused on the technical skill of building the tower, okay? So we're gonna have 2 winners. Sometimes it's the same group and sometimes it's not. I love the 30-second pitch because I have heard so many kids get really, really creative. I've had some students where they maybe had 1 or 2 layers, so they didn't have the whole skyscraper, they didn't have the height, but they were able to like sell it in a way to the client, like, this is only 2 tiers, but imagine it 20 high. And, you know, the reason that it's not that high right now is because we were focused on XYZ. Like, they get really creative in the pitch. So ultimately, you are going to allow the client to choose the structure in which they felt won, which is the technical skill, and then you're going to give those judges the opportunity to decide who is the winner on the soft skill side. Again, it may not be the same. And then you're going to notice, depending on your timing, there is just a whole bunch of different reflection questions toward the bottom in which you can just talk to the students. So again, depending on how much time is left, ask them some of those questions. What did it feel like working as the group? What did it feel like observing them, etc.? And you can kind of fold in some of the key talking points in the prompts from there. The biggest thing we really want to emphasize as you close out today is that soft skills are really important, and whether or not the students feel like they have these soft skills, they can always be working at it. In high school, it's a great time to be able to be working on these different soft skills, and of course, there's many, many, many more as well, which we're going to touch base a little bit more on in the next session. We want them to realize that sometimes we have lots of time to process a problem that comes our way, and other times we just have to impromptu answer, do the best choice that we can come up with, and then reflect and evaluate in the future. And likewise, we might not like to work as a team, but almost every career, every industry, at some point, you have to work as a team. Nearly always. So again, you might not like your colleagues, you might not like your peers, but you've got to find a way to be high functioning and work together. So enjoy the session, and we'll see you next time.